Think we need to talk about something. Before we talk about it, welcome to the High Impact Flicks channel. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell notification icon. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like and share it with everybody you know. Don't forget to subscribe to my private email list through my website, highimpactflicks.com. Oh boy, we got to talk about something. Do not adjust your screen. I am standing here in the dark with my survival flashlight. So if the power grid goes down or just the electricity goes out for a while during that thunderstorm, you have plenty of lumens to light your way. And with multi-flashing modes, including emergency lights, not to mention an emergency hammer and a seatbelt cutter, it's got everything a survival flashlight should have. That was corny. Don't put that in there. It's powered by the sun. It's got a cool little compass. This thing even has a freaking lighter. And if your battery's low on your cell phone, this baby will charge it up. The link for your survival flashlight is in the description below.
I love this meme right here. Colin Kaepernick just can't stay out of the news, man. Now he's got Joe Rogan talking about him. And it's amazing to me. I don't understand what the lag is, because we dealt with the Colin Kaepernick's comparison of the NFL to the slave trade about, what, 3 weeks ago now? Now Joe Rogan's talking about it. And it's pretty interesting. Joe Rogan rips Colin Kaepernick for comparing NFL players to slaves. Something I didn't go over in the initial dealing with this is that when Colin Kaepernick said, let's see if part of that's here.
What they don't want you to
Here, this is the video right here. This is the video in question. So he takes the NFL players who show up to the combine every year so that they can be assessed by coaches and by professionals and advisors and all that to see if they're worth investing the money so that they can sign a contract and be millionaires. The hope is for the guys who go to the combine is that they'll get a contract so that they can play in the NFL, so they can become millionaires. Did they do that? Is that a compulsory thing? Are people making them go to the combine? No. Are they doing it voluntarily? Yes. Did they have an objective? Yes. Are they incentivized? Yes. What are the incentive? What's the incentive? I can make millions and be a superstar and be on the box of Wheaties and have shoes named after me. It's all voluntary. Did Kunta Kinte and Roots have that same luxury of exercising the option of whether he was going to be a slave or not, whether he was going to be poked and prodded or not? These NFL players are submitting themselves to being poked and prodded and probed and tested. Slaves didn't have that option. It's like they got put in a cage and on a boat and they got shipped over here and then they got transported and distributed to different places in shackles. And there's another element that I didn't deal with, but we're going to deal with it when we watch this video right here. And then we'll go over to with what Joe Rogan's response was, which was the right response.
What's being established is a power dynamic.
What's being established is a power dynamic. Here we go. Scene change.
Before they put you on the field, teams poke, prod, and examine you, searching for any defect that might affect your performance. No boundary respected. No dignity left intact.
People who made it in the NFL and they got millions of dollars in the bank, they're like, no dignity left intact? So what? You see how much I'm making? I signed a contract for $6 million last year. But watch this. Something I forgot to point out last time. See all these guys right here? That's not an accurate depiction of a combine. You don't have all black people at a combine. Where are the white people? He left off the white people. Would that be considered racist? What if a white person depicted this thing and only had white people and didn't have any black people or Asian people or Hispanic people? That's not an accurate depiction of a combine. And just as it's not an accurate depiction of a combine when you exclude white people, it's not an accurate depiction of a combine to compare it equally and put it on the same level as slavery. It's not even close. It's not close in reward. It's not close in intent. It's not close in voluntary versus compulsory. You can do this if you want to. If you do it and you're good enough, you're going to make millions of dollars. Over here, sorry, you don't have a choice. You're going to be in the fields. And we are going to poke you and prod you, and there's nothing you can do about it. And we are going to put shackles on you, and we are going to brand you, and we are going to stick you out in our fields. And if you don't do what we say you're going to do, guess what? You're not going to be alive very much longer. Or you'll get whipped into submission. Ain't nobody's whipping anybody into submission in an NFL combine. This is all so ridiculous.
Look at that shape there. Look at this.
Watch this.
Bob, I got your bid. 30 to you. 100. So, next one coming up, best one we got. 600.
Look at this.
Look at this here. Come on, who wants this?
That anybody can make that comparison. Give me a frickin' break. So Joe Rogan weighs in on this. The disgraced former 49ers quarterback went mega viral after he compared being an NFL player to being a slave in his new Netflix special. Wonder how many people are going to watch that. While it was an incredibly stupid comparison, nobody is really surprised at this by Colin Kaepernick's antics. Despite nobody being surprised, Rogan definitely wasn't impressed. Here's what Rogan's response was to that.
Did you see that Netflix special where Colin Kaepernick is comparing the NFL to slavery?
Bro. Roll the laugh track, man. It's ridiculous.
Rosa Parks, that's what I call that dude.
Throws apart.
Rosa Parks.
That is the lamest. I did try to watch it.
It
makes me
dumbest
sad.
Comparison.
It makes me sad because it feels like the lowest. It's like the lowest pandering for racism that you could create.
Yeah.
It's almost infantile.
Yeah.
The pandering of it, and I think it takes away from real racist shit. It's just like
Imagine.
That is such a good point. It takes away from real racism. And it hypersensitizes people. The last thing, I don't care what color your skin is, the last thing you want, it doesn't matter if it's white skin, brown skin, Asian skin, Hispanic skin, black skin. It doesn't matter what skin it is, but you don't want it to be thin skin. And that's what Colin Kaepernick is creating, a generation of thin-skinned, ready to be offended people who can't get through life without screaming, that was racist. I'm being treated unfair. This is ridiculous. Dang it. I signed a $6 million contract and they're just treating me like a slave. Last thing you want, you don't want to be thin-skinned, but you definitely don't want to be a millionaire professional baseball, football, basketball player thin-skinned. That's disgusting.
Pairing the ability to do it or not do it.
Oh, yeah.
You sign up for it.
Yeah.
Everybody, like so many people who play football, want to be in the NFL. It's a goal. It's a dream. You can make millions of dollars. And imagine comparing that to slavery simply because they measure people's physical performance. That's what he was doing. He was measuring like wingspans and the combine scores, like for weightlifting and speed and all that stuff. That's to see how physically adept you are, how good you're going to be at football.
Yeah.
So they'll give you tons of money.
Yeah.
The idea that this is comparable to slavery. Whoever fucking wrote that down, and then the fact that he read it and said it, and then they had that video where they're comparing the NFL owners to the slave masters and they're shaking hands with each other. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
I'm so glad somebody can see it. I'm so glad somebody out there can exercise it only takes a morsel, a grain of sand worth of critical thinking to see right through that. It's amazing to me. The first time I watched it, I think I was drinking something. I kind of spit it up a little bit and choked. I was like, what the? You got to be kidding. And then you have the other side of it right here from the Huff Post. Look at this. And they are literally taking this news story seriously. Let me refresh this right here, because I don't think it's going to play the whole thing. Colin Kaepernick on Rittenhouse verdict, white supremacy cannot be reformed. And look what Colin Kaepernick says here. I'm just going to read his tweet. We just witnessed a system built on white supremacy validate the terroristic acts of a white supremacist. So let me just go to the actual tweet. Just show you that this is a legit tweet. Look at this. He's getting ratioed as well. Colin Kaepernick just wrote in words, which if you say it with your mouth, it's slander. If you write it down, if you actually had the forethought to let it go through your brain and have your hand type it out or write it down, it becomes libel. And he just called Kyle Rittenhouse a white supremacist without any objective facts, zero evidence. Talk about opening yourself up to a civil suit. And a lot of people listen to Colin Kaepernick. It's just like what happened with Nicholas Sandmann. Nicholas Sandmann was defamed, he was dehumanized, he was demoralized, and before an audience of millions of people, he was made to look like the bad guy when he actually wasn't. He did nothing wrong. You know how many millions of people still think that Nicholas Sandmann is a bad guy? You know how many people will continue to think that Kyle Rittenhouse is a bad guy? They won't be able to go anywhere unless they start growing facial hair and stop looking like they used to look. They're not going to be able to go to a grocery store, bowling alley, restaurant, just go out and walk the dog without being recognized. And that could literally put a target on somebody's back for the rest of their lives because CNN and the Washington Compost Pile and the New York Slimes and people like Colin Kaepernick couldn't keep their mouths shut, but just had to go ahead and slander, and millions of lemmings follow them. So now there are people out there still gunning for Nicholas Sandmann and will be gunning for Kyle Rittenhouse for a long, long time. We just witnessed a system built on white supremacy validate the terroristic acts of a white supremacist. This only further validates the need to abolish our current system. White supremacy cannot be reformed. Unbelievable that you can look at the same trial and come away with, oh yeah, this was all about white supremacy. This was all about somebody acting on their and benefiting from white privilege. It's like people are looking at something completely different than you and I looked at, coming away with a completely different idea about what the story was actually about.
He's titled Colin in Black and White is out on Netflix. It takes a closer look at how the former NFL quarterback navigated race and activism leading up to the moment he took a knee during the national anthem. At one point, Kaepernick compares the NFL draft process to a slave auction. NBC News correspondent Vaughn Hillier takes a closer look at the film and how people are responding.
What they don't want you to understand is what's being established is a power dynamic.
Former NFL quarterback Colin Kaepernick's new Netflix special igniting debate on social media after it compared the NFL's drafting process.
Speaking of power dynamic, Colin Kaepernick has a way bigger power dynamic than me or you or all of us put together. Talk about a power dynamic. Talk about operating from a platform. How many people does he have following him just on Twitter? Let's take a look. He's got 2.4 million Twitter followers. How many people take him seriously? Probably a lot. That's a power dynamic. A power dynamic just to shovel a bunch of BS saying that this guy who's just declared innocent is a white supremacist. Because he chose to go against the BLM mantra of, hey, if we don't get what we want, just go ahead and burn it down. And he's like, no, that not on my watch. Not on my watch.
And its workout performance review called the Combine to slavery.
What a joke.
In the opening minutes of the special titled Colin in Black and White, a line of black actors playing NFL prospects morph into slaves at an auction with shackles on them.
Because that's all that appears at a combine. Just black athletes. That's it. No Hispanics, no whites, no Asians.
Look at this here. Come on, who wants this?
I think what we're supposed to take away from the comparison of the NFL Combine to a slave auction is the question of dehumanization and the ways that there are power imbalances related to race and class in how that dehumanization takes place.
The Netflix special promoting the story of Kaepernick's formative years navigating race, class, and culture. Some critics rejecting the slave auction comparison on social media.
I support Kaepernick kneeling and speaking out about racism in America, but minimum NFL salary is almost $700,000. This is not slavery. He's not wrong. Slaves had custom Rolls Royces and penthouses. This comparison is beyond absurd. Anyone wanting to play in the NFL is going to be heavily evaluated and then given hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, and they have the choice to walk away anytime. Exactly.
Social media, including Utah's Republican congressman.
It really is a slap in the face to what true racism truly is.
Burgess Owens, a former NFL player who tweeted out, "How dare Kaepernick compare the evil endured by so many of our ancestors to a bunch of millionaires who chose to play the game."
Exactly. Jenny Texas says all athletes who believe this should leave the NFL and the NBA and other, the Major League Baseball clubs. They should leave it now and protest because, hey, it's slavery. And you can't be supporting slavery, right, LeBron James? Can't support that slavery. This is Colin Kaepernick's right. We're nothing but a bunch of slaves on the chopping block. We're out of here. Rip up contracts. Yeah, that's not going to happen because they know they're not slaves.
2016 Kaepernick, then a star for the San Francisco 49ers, began kneeling or sitting during the national anthem, protesting police brutality and racism.
I'm going to continue to stand with the people that are being oppressed.
He's standing against the people by doing what he's doing. He's not doing anybody any favors, including the people who are on his side. He's actually making a mockery of them.
Other players followed his lead. The NFL in 2018 implemented a no-kneeling policy during the national anthem, threatening to fine teams with players who refused to stand. That same year, basketball star LeBron James commented on HBO's The Shop.
It's all about perception with the NFL. It's like, okay, we're going to implement this policy because the fans really aren't happy about it. The NFL is one of the biggest purveyors of the military-industrial complex. They always have the jets, the B-2, the stealth fighter going by, the stealth bomber going by. And it's all, oh, say, can you? It's all patriotic. It's all just nonsense. Bowing down to a piece of fabric seems like idolatry to me. And to add insult to injury, let's take the Pledge of Allegiance. Who is the Pledge of Allegiance written by? Oh, that's right, a socialist. Bellamy, remember? Francis Bellamy wrote the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to this piece of cloth. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. That corporate entity, is it the Title 28, Section 3002, 15A, United States of America? The corporate fiction, the corporate federal entity that you're talking about? Oh, yeah, that is what you're talking about. We need compliant people, not thinking for themselves. We need people giving, they used to give the salute like this. It was like, and then they changed it to putting the hand over your heart. I'm not against being for your fellow countrymen. But bowing down to a piece of cloth and then criticizing other people for not doing what you do is basically eking people out of society who want to exercise critical thinking. People literally think that that's almost like it's blasphemy. You're making fun of the Pledge of Allegiance? You're kneeling? You're turning a blind eye to the, oh, say. By the way, oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming? Or the land of the free and the home of the brave. It's false. It's not a truism. It's completely false. Over the land of the free and the home of the brave. This is not the land of the free, home of the brave, and hasn't been since at least 1913. Some say since 1867. It's the land of the fee. It's the home of the slave. If Colin Kaepernick wants to go against true slavery, then he should be talking about the IRS and the Federal Reserve, not the NFL being equated to slavery. It's like, you want to see true slavery? Here, I got something in my pocket I want to show you. That's a Federal Reserve note. Do I have a Federal Reserve? I'm so I can't pay attention. I don't have a Federal Reserve note. But if I did, I'd hold it up and it says Federal Reserve note. It's not a dollar. It says dollar on it, but it's a Federal Reserve note. It's fiat currency. Money by fiat means they determine the value of that thing. Just so happens that now we need more of those dollars to put fuel into our tanks. We need more of those dollars now to get food on our tables. We need more of those dollars to keep a roof over our head. Why do we need more of those dollars? Because it's fiat. It's not set. It's not pegged to a standard. They can print as much of it as they want. They dilute the M2 money supply. And when they dilute it, there's your hidden tax called inflation. It drains the value of the product of your time and labor and energy. That dollar that you worked for, well, they just stole your time and your labor. That's slavery, Colin Kaepernick. That's what we need to unite against. Not all this nonsense right here where you're actually making a mockery of real slavery. I am against slavery. The NFL is not slavery. Major League Baseball is not slavery. The NBA is not slavery. You're not enslaved when you're driving around in a Ferrari and you live in a 10,000 square foot mansion and you have a couple summer homes and private jets. It's not slavery. The system is actually, it's working out pretty well for you, Colin. You got 2.4 million people following you on Twitter. Why don't you be a little bit more responsible? With great power comes great responsibility.
Hey guys, we know with the way things have been going, it can get really interesting really quick. So make sure you and your family have a long-term storable food supply. Support the channel and get $50 off with my link in the description while you still can.